Hi, this is Judy and Judy in the Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make a traditional apple pie just like I made in my bakery. The recipe comes straight out of my cookbook, Secrets of a Professional Baker. If you want a copy, check out the link below. If you want a copy of just the recipe, you can download a PDF version on the link that's on the screen now. To start with, I'm going to cut into small pieces 6 Granny Smith apples. Now these are very large apples. If you have Granny Smith that are smaller than this, and this is quite large, it fits into my hand, it's a big one. 6 will be plenty here. If you have smaller ones, which they usually are smaller, you might even go up to 8. It depends on the size of your pie pan. But my rule of thumb is anywhere from 6 to 8. Now, if you don't want to use Granny Smith, there are other apples that will work as well, as long as it's a tart apple and not a real juicy apple, and one that will bake up and hold its shape. That's a very important point, because if you use an apple like a Red Delicious, it's going to fall apart and become applesauce as it bakes, and so you're going to have a pie crust filled with applesauce, and you don't want to do that. You can use a blend of different types of apples if you want. I usually just stay with Granny Smith. All right, I have my apples cut up, and I stopped at 5½. These are huge apples. I don't think I've ever used so few numbers of apples, but these are large, and so this is 5½ of those, but normally 6 at least. Okay, in this bowl, I have 1 cup of granulated sugar, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour that I've just stirred together. And now we're going to add that to the apples and just toss them together until the apples are very well coated. You notice I didn't add any lemon juice to these apples. That's something that you can commonly do, and I have added lemon juice when I was not using all Granny Smith apples. So if you're using a blend of apples and some are not quite as tart as the Granny Smith, you might add a couple teaspoons of lemon juice to the mixture just to add a little bit of tartness for sweet tart in there. With all Granny Smith, I never really found a true need to add the lemon juice in there, so I did not. And you see these are coating up really well. I have my bottom crust ready to go. I still have to roll out the top crust, so before I add these into that pie, I'm going to roll out the top crust and get it ready to go. And I'm going to preheat the oven to 375 while I'm doing the rest of this. As you can see, I've rolled out my top crust, nice and large. I've added the apples to my prepared bottom half, and you can see the 5½ apples still was a lot. It's going to be a very full pie, and I have dotted it with about 2 tablespoons of butter chopped up, and you just spread it around on there any way you can. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. And now you can get very fancy at this point. You can take a little tiny cookie cutter and you can cut a little apple shape in the center of it if you want, or some other kind of shapes. I usually kept it very simple, and I'm just going to carefully fold it in half. Move it a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. And now I'm just going to very carefully place that on the top, and you hear my oven, it is good and hot and ready to go. And now I'm going to trim this crust around so that it's approximately even with the bottom crust that was trimmed just a little bit below the edge of the pie pan. And you can always take this extra crust and roll it out and make pie crust cookies. That's a yummy thing to do. Okay, and now I'm going to just carefully fold that under as I go around. Fold it under, and then we're going to crimp it. Before I do that crimping, I want you to see just how you have to cut slits in the top of the pie crust, or else you may have it bubbling over on the edges, and you don't want to do that. And so all I did was I just make a little star in the top with a knife, sharp knife here, And again, you can get fancy, but I opted always to keep things simple. I just like simple things. But if this is going to be for something grand and wonderful, you might want to take a cookie cutter and cut a hole in the middle there. The only hard part about that is lining it up so it's right in the middle. Okay, now we're ready to crimp, and I just take my index finger in one hand and my index finger and thumb in the other, and just kind of work these together and crimp this pie. My oven is hot at 375. I'm going to put this on the rack in the middle of the oven and allow it to bake for 1 hour until it's bubbly and the crust is golden, and then we'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Here's our finished pie, and oh boy does it smell good in here. Give this recipe a try if you want to try some delicious apple pie. This is Judy at Judy in the Kitchen. Have a great day.